Hey everyone, before we get started on this video, I do have to always give out my disclaimer. We are not financial advisors and everything you see on here is for educational purposes only. And this is kind of like a strategy that I like. Obviously, not every strategy is going to work for everybody. Anytime my bot does post any trades, you got to make sure you use your own TA, your own research to make sure if that's going to be a valid trade. So let's get started. Hey everyone, just wanted to do a quick little video on the trading side of cryptos. Just to give you a better visualization of how you could take full advantage of this, especially with such a high success rate. Technically Solana on the 30 minutes is more successful, but the 15 minutes will give you a whole lot more trades. But this is just more of like a visual representation of what to do. I accidentally did all this on the 15 minutes instead of doing it on the 30 minutes, but again, it still has a high success rate and the probability is still kind of the same. So let's say you're a trader, right? And you wanted to do trades. I always tell people, hey, if you're new, only trade Shiba or Solana, even though on here it gives a bunch of other coins. But these technically give you some of the best results. So let's say you wanted to trade, for example here, Solana. Let's say you're brand new, you just started, right? Your first trade, you lost. You're down negative 3.03. But then you're like, okay, it is what it is, go on to the next one. Then the next trade, you're up 4.76. So you're like a little bit excited. All right, cool. We're doing good. Then you take your next trade. Now you're down 2.81. So now you're a little bit upset because come on, you obviously we always want to win. But then you take your next trade, and this is actually a really nice trade at 5.05. So now you're excited. You take your next trade. Now you just won 4.86. So you're even more excited. But then you get back-to-back two failed trades at a minus 2.93. I'm going to delete these. And then minus 3.0. So now you're kind of upset because now you just lost back-to-back. Anytime you see two failed trades back-to-back, you got to take that third trade because the third trade always plays out. The way you have to understand is every time there's a trade, every time there's a failed trade, the probability of being successful on the next trade goes up and up and up, right? Let's say you see three trades back to back. On that fourth trade, I would probably risk a little bit more to make up, for all the bad trades. But let's say you always wait for the two bad trades, right? That's a really good tip, and we'll touch that in a little bit. But in this scenario, you got two bad trades back to back. But then you go for the next trade. Now you landed a successful trade at 5.04. Then there's a little bit of waiting. And the next trade, you win another 5%. Then you go to the next trade, you win a 4.8%. Then you go to the next trade, 5%. So now you just hit 4 back-to-back successful trades. To be honest, if you land 4 successful trades back-to-back, I would not trade the next one. And guess what happens on the next one? You've got a losing trade, minus 3.23. After that, you lose another bad trade, minus 3.04. So now you got 2 trades back to back. And remember what I said about anytime you see 2 trades back to back, what do you do for the third one? You get in. And this one barely made it, barely made it. And this is why whenever you get into a trade and there's a target, you exit on that target. Don't get greedy and be like, oh, what if it keeps going up? Right? There's a lot of scenarios here where you could have got in out here, but if you would have stayed, you would have made a lot more. But that's how people get wrecked. Example for this, you would have made out with 4.67. Then your next trade, you have a successful trade at 5.08. You keep going, another successful trade at 4.76. But then you get a bad trade. And it sucks here because it barely dropped enough to kick you out, and then it went up. That could have been a successful trade. But it is what it is. And this trade, cost you 3.19. Then there's a lot of sideways movement. And again, at this point, you don't go in. And this time here is... So from this last trade to the next trade, 9 days. Dang, that's a lot of waiting. But that would have paid off because then you would have made 4.67. Then after that, you would have got another successful trade at 4.78. And this is the ones where, unfortunately, you would have took profit, even though your profit would have been a lot more. So, let's say, I can use this. profit would have been all the way up here. Maybe you would have got out here. That would have been 30% on Solana. So like that would have made you win the nice little trade. And this is when the whole market just completely spiked. Oh no, Solana is different. Solana thing did its own thing. If you don't have a sell price, you probably would have saw that it pumped like a lot, and you probably, this is the ones where like, okay, maybe you can stay a little longer just to see what's happening. Set a sell price, just because again that candle spiked so high. So that one you probably would have closed a little bit higher, maybe like doubled it. But at the same time, you don't want to be greedy. You go on just to the next. Now the next trade would have actually cost you. It would have cost you minus 2.87. Then if you go to the next trade, this would have been a successful trade at 4.66. Now, currently this next trade, right now you would be up. Well, now I did this earlier. Now you would be at 3.27. It's where you would have currently been at. Now, remember, you're trading it at a 66% success rate. So one of the tips I want to give everybody here is, whenever there's a trade here, I would say, especially if you're new, stick to Solana or Shiba. They give you the best returns, but keep track of it. Don't just jump into every single trade, right? If you want to be successful with it, you got to have a lot of patience, and you're not going to get a trade every day. Sometimes it takes a little longer for a trade. Look at that one with Solana. It took 9 days for the next available trade. That's usually pretty long. And the good thing is, you also have Shiba to fill in those gaps. But you want to keep track of both of them, kind of like this. This is where my bot and indicator come in handy, because you get a visualization of the trades. So like, hey, oh, we've had 2 bad trades. Perfect. Now it's the time to trade. This next one, I got to trade it. Oh, you know what? There's been 2 successful trades. There's a 3rd successful trade. You know what? I might want to wait until, there's a bad trade. Because the more successful trades, then obviously the second one. Usually when you have a successful trade, usually the second one's pretty good. It's the 3rd and 4th trade that, have a higher probability of failing. So you do your first trade, you do your second trade that are successful back to back, then you kind of want to wait for 2 bad trades. That's like the ideal. This is how your success rate will be probably at its peak, at its best, right? So like if we come back here, right, let's say you were going to start trading. So what you're going to do is you're going to wait for at least 2 bad trades. So you're going to skip this trade, this trade, this trade. You're going to skip this trade, this trade. Now you have the 2 bad trades you're waiting for, right? Because remember, it's better for you to have more successful trades than trying to land a bunch of trades. So if there's no trades coming out, it is what it is, right? I know some people are impatient. They're like, oh, but I need a trade. I need to make money now. Especially like if you want to make this a job, then it makes it a lot harder, because a lot more pressure to get these successful trades. But you need to understand, having the patience will give you the better results, the better accuracy. So in this scenario, you would wait for 2 bad trades. Now that you got to 2 bad trades, you would take the next 2 trades. So now you're officially starting to trade. Now you have a successful trade at 5%. Then you got another 5%. And keep in mind, if you're trading with like leverage, I usually trade at 15. If you do 5% at 15, that's 75%. If you're trading with $1,000, that's $750. Right? That's the kind of mindset you gotta have. It's like patience pays off. So let's say you waited for 2 bad trades. The 2 bad trades are out. Now you got 2 trades. Now keep in mind, you made $750, but it would have probably taken you, since this started from back here, you didn't trade since this first trade happened. Your first trade started 28 days later. And then you closed it 32 days later. So, you know what I mean? There is gaps. And what I'm going to try to do is see if I can find other coins that could fill in the gaps. But again, you don't want to be trading every day, because then it's just more stressful. You rather stay calm, clean. Imagine if for the whole month you just took 2 trades and you didn't and keep in mind, those are 2 trades. One trade alone did 750. Okay, so that was just one trade in that month. So let's say you did you did those 2 successful trades. You made 1,500 in 2 trades in a month. Not too bad. It's not that perfect. Like, hey, I want to make $10,000 a month. But the reality is you gotta have patience, and this is just your first trades, right? So we waited for the 2 bad trades. You got into the next 2 trades. Keep in mind, the next 2 trades were successful, but to be honest, they're risky, especially the 4th one. 3rd one, that's up to you how you want to play it. But for me, I would say, you know what? You got the 2 bad trades. You got your 2 good trades. Cool. You know what? Wait till your next 2 bad trades, because you would have missed out on these, and it sucks to see like, oh, you know what? That's easily another $750 in each one of these, right? Or close enough. But then you would have saw, and this time it didn't take that much longer. Then you would have saw, hey, look, there's 2 bad trades. Cool. I'm gonna take the next 2 trades. So now you have 467. So you made about 700. Then you got another 5, which is the 750. And these again are not too far out from each other. 8 days. From the last 2 trades that you did though, to your next trade, another 23 days. So again, there's a decent gap, and hopefully I'm gonna look into it and see if Shiba can fill in those little gaps. But again, it's better not to trade every single day and then trade this a smarter way, where it's like, no, I wait for my 2 bad trades, I get into my 2 good ones. You know, like this was a good one here, a good one here. Again, 3rd one is up to you. The 3rd one could has a, you know, still has a decent chance, but the 4th one I would never trade. The 4th trade, so you got 3 trades back to back successful. That 4th one is kind of more of a gamble. If again you're more, you know, expert in a sense, or like let's say the 3rd one, you know, again you're expert, you know how to do some extra TA, and says, you know what, it is gonna drop. Or hey, Alonso says tomorrow we're gonna drop back down. There's a trade right now. Your odds just improved on the 3rd one. 4th one, I would probably get away. And as you can see on this one, the 4th one failed, but the 3rd one didn't. So if you play the rule of like, hey, wait for 2 bad trades, take your 2 good trades. Wait for 2 bad trades, take your good 2 trades. So here failed. So then this one here was successful, and this one was successful. So after, you know, 1 bad failed one, the next one were 2 were good. And then now we're sitting where we had 1 bad one, 1 good one, 1 good one. So we haven't had our 2 bad ones yet. And the whole like 2 bad ones, 2 good ones, it goes based off, you know, the probability, right? The success rate. That's probably the best way you can come at this trading to make nice money on the side. But obviously it takes a lot longer. If, you know, you want to risk a little more, you don't have to wait for the 2 bad trades. You can just wait for 1 bad trade. At least wait for 1 bad trade, because the next trade could still, you know, play out for you. Because in this scenario here, you had your bad trade, then you do the next 2 good trades, and then you wait for a bad trade, then you wait for the next 2 good trades. And so in this scenario, you would have had, let me bring these out real quick. Check mark. So in this scenario, you would have had your bad trade, and then your good trade, and your good trade. And then you wait for a bad trade, then you play your good trade, and your second good trade. Right? And that's kind of like the one of the ways you have to look at it to improve your odds. So even though you go on here, one thing I would suggest, especially if you're new to trading, is, you know, it has the entry or lower. So let's say there's an entry at 26.24, but right now the price is 26.50. You don't want to get in because it's higher. You want to wait for this price or lower. You want to wait for a retrace. If it retraces, you get in, you set your stop loss, you have your target to get out. And that's the way you kind of want to play this role. Is you want to play it smarter, not greedier, right? You got to have patience. Sometimes these trades do take a while. But as you can see here, you know, even at 66%, right? I do Solana on the 30 minutes, which gives you even more at a 71%. I might kind of readjust everything, the way everything works. I might just only do like, I'm going to see all the other coins, right? I want something that has the lower time frame with high success rate. So I might tweak my settings a little bit. So on this one, the settings are tweaked a little bit more than they are here. And these gains are actually a lot bigger, but that's because I'm not using the same stop loss. Usually the stop loss will be like the previous high or low, Here it's a lot more. Like the stop losses are a little bit bigger and the rewards a little bit bigger. So I might go in and tweak everything because I did tweak the settings. But again, I just wanted to bring this up so that way people have a better visualization. Because I'm more of a visual person. I like to see it instead of someone just typing it or telling me about it. Now you can kind of understand. It's like, okay, this is probably the best method for this trading. You want to be successful with it, with the best accuracy, wait for 2 bad trades, trade the 3rd and 4th trade. And then after that, you wait until 2 bad trades, and then you trade the 3rd and 4th trade. For you who are more experts, you can, after 1 trade, you can take the 2nd and 3rd, and then wait for 1 bad trade, take the 2nd and 3rd. All right, you don't want to be that guy who's greedy and be like, oh, I got 4 successful trades in a row. I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep trading. Because again, each time the probability is kind of going against you every time the successful rate. Even though this thing does have the ability to do, 4 or 5 trades back to back. That was this chart. So let's see, where's it at? Oh, it's right here. Yeah. So like you got a 5 here, 5 here, 4.89, almost 5, and a 5 here. So even though live looks amazing, that's like the ones you want to catch. It's tricky. So make sure you always play it smart. Again, especially if you're new, stick with Solana and Shibas and trade that that kind of method. I know it takes a long time to get some of these good trades set up, but that's just to increase your odds, right? If you're going to trade every single day, you have to trade every single day because again, you got to make sure if you take a bunch of bad trades, you got to make sure you take the same ones, but that's just more stressful. So this is why I wanted to show everybody this, this strategy, just because again, it's less stressful. You do get less trades, but you make more money in the long run, right? You're not going to take a little bit extra losses and have to make up for those losses. But if you have any questions, concerns, feel free to reach out and I'll be glad to answer your questions. All right, if you made it this far and you're looking into learning how to trade, I do have a course that I do sell on my website on tindicator.com, as well as the scalping bot, which is this here, which kind of tells you where the entries and exits are. And it gives you a really good overall representation of what's going on with the trades. So you can see, which ones failed, which ones were successful. Especially if you're going to do the strategy of like, let's wait for 2 bad ones. We'll trade the next 2 good ones. This makes it a little bit easier. On top of that, you'll actually be able to run this script on all your favorite coins as well. So if you have any questions or anything, feel free to reach out to me on Discord. Thank you.